No.
Yeah, the neighbours have been complaining to the property manager that he's been doing like naked seances out in the backyard and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so anyway, we put the rent up. Before I knew all this, we put the rent up because this is well overdue. We haven't really put it up much. So he decided, no, it's too much, so he was going to leave. But then I find
I'm
out
still
all
stuck
these
on
stories.
naked seances. Hang on, backpedal.
Yeah.
You're listening to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard. Here's your host, Tabitha Bright.
Hello and welcome to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard, where I get to speak to property investors from around Australia about their investing journey. My name's Tabitha Bright and I'm the head of coaching here at Positive Real Estate, where we help people build wealth through property. With over 8,000 clients across Australia and New Zealand, there are some incredible stories to tell, which hopefully make your investing journey that little bit easier and will inspire you along the way. So my guest today is Tom Pethybridge. Tom has recently made a very courageous choice. He's learnt to deal with some incredibly tricky tenants, including navigating a naked seance or two. Yes, you heard that right, a naked seance. So I'll keep you in suspense. Enjoy this conversation with Tom. Hey, Tom, good to have you here and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm always a little bit worried that I have to twist people's arms, but everyone's been so forthcoming and generous with allowing me to pick their brains and tell their stories.
You must be busy with it because he asked me back in October when I was camping. So, yeah, finally got me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a bit crazy. But and so tell me, because you were camping for a reason, right? Because when I first met you, you were living the corporate lifestyle and
Yep.
Tell us a bit about that.
Executive pay, all that sort of stuff. I've been up in the
working in HR.
Yeah, working in HR the last 3.5 years, and been in the manufacturing or mining industry all my career. And the HR role, I thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely loved it, but it's a serving role, and I just found I was getting tapped out every day. I'm an introvert, so you heard the old saying, the 5 coins where you wake up in the morning and you give away your coins, and by the end of the day you got no coins left. Well, that was me, and I was actually coming to work the next day with no coins. I was feeling really down, so I actually popped. I actually fell in a heap at work and had to walk out, had to leave. The boss was very good. He gave me about a month off to think about it and think about what I wanted to do. And I pretty much through that exercise just decided that, life's too important. There's too many other things I want to do. I was too much stuck in a rut of where I was, and I just had to move on. So had nowhere to go. Decided, always wanted to go camping. We wanted to do the great trip around Australia before COVID hit. Literally 3 or 4 days before the lockdown, we were about to strap on the camper and go around Australia. So that got canned, and we've had several other holidays canned. So we just decided, you know what? Got my wife, she took long service leave, the school was good, and we went camping for 2 months around Victoria. So I didn't have to worry about lockdowns and stuff. So fantastic.
Yes, because you live regionally.
Yes.
Yeah, so you weren't stuck in a 5K radius or anything like that.
No, we were fairly blessed in the Glenelg Shire or Portland area because we didn't see much of COVID over this way. So we didn't go into too many lockdowns. But we just travelled around all of Victoria 2 months. We still haven't seen it all. My God, there's so much to see. But we had to leave Gippsland because we just got rained out, so we came back home. So that was good before Christmas.
Yeah, well, it sounds fabulous. I've got a number of clients. One of the earlier podcasts, Agatha and Warwick Moreland, if you get a chance to check that out, I've got them on Facebook, and they're back circumnavigating Australia. And they bought a massive truck. They've been doing it for a couple of years, but it's a big truck that's been kitted out. It's painted black. It's called Black Betty, and they live in that now. And they've recently, oh, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've recently sold all their possessions pretty much, other than what they can fit. And Agatha Warwick, I think, is engineering. Agatha comes from an architecture background.
Right.
And so she's collected lovingly over the years these pieces of furniture and stuff that, architects are passionate about. And she sold all this stuff off and got rid of all her possessions. And she said it was tough, but when I spoke to her the other day, she said it was actually really freeing.
Yes.
And
yes.
Incredibly brave. I don't know if I could give up all my creature comforts, but and I've got 3 cats that wouldn't fit in the truck, but it's interesting to see some of the choices that people are making in this.
I think people
it's not
realise that all the material possessions that we have are meaningless when we're gone. So 100%. You really got to make the most of the experiences. And we just went around Victoria in a camper, and it was great. But when we came home, look, we've got a 2-story nice house in Portland, and when we came home, we couldn't believe how big the place was. Like, we were in the kitchen and we were looking around, staring, and our daughter's looking at us going, "What are you doing?" I said, "This place is huge." We were living outside. We had rivers and lakes and things all around us with no walls. We come into this house and it just felt like a castle, because it was just all unnecessary storage and space and everything. So it really gave us an eye-opener that, we do live well, but we don't necessarily need to when you can actually go and do what we did for a couple of months around Victoria. So you can do it easy.
It's awesome. And so you've started your own business now. So, which is exciting.
Thought long and hard, did a little bit of study, trying to think of what I was going to do. I've always been practical with my hands, and I've always renovated my PPRs. So I've had a number of them over the years. So I've always done them up. So I've been good with my hands. So I thought, well, we'll see how we go. So I started up a business and kicked off the handyman thing, and oh my God, it's busy. I'm getting phone calls, and it's not just, look, can you change the washers on my tap? It's, can you maintain my property? It's like,
that's awesome.
It's like, can you bring it up to scratch? Because a lot of people just live in their houses and they don't care much for the garden or the deterioration of the property and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And they just put up with it. And then they decide, on a couple of years, I'm going to have to sell or retire. I need to get this up to scratch. And they can't get tradies because tradies are flat out and there's not enough of them. So,
well, everyone's moving.
It's plenty of work.
Bonus for you.
Absolutely.
After I spoke to you, I actually started Googling property up in Portland. Because I'm always looking for somewhere regional that I might move to one day. And so I had a bit of a nosy round. There's some beautiful, beautiful wee places there.
It's a beautiful spot. Yeah, it's a great spot. Beaches everywhere. But the property's gone nuts here. So last couple of years, it's doubled in value.
No, I've missed my moment, really, haven't I?
Yeah.
And so, talking property, you bought your first principal place of residence in Townsville, so regional again, because tell me a little bit about that. You were working at the nickel refinery back in about 98. My first gig, because I was born and raised in Victoria and studied in Bendigo, but my first gig was in Charters Towers, and just rented there, and I hated it. When Jason was born.
Charters Towers.
He grew up and lived in Charters Towers.
Right. Okay. He's a similar age. You never know what I bumped into it.
You probably did. You
never know.
So
I rented in Charters Towers. It was $140 a week then, and I hated that. It was felt like just bleeding money. So that was my first taste of renting, and couldn't stand it. We then moved to Townsville. I got a gig at the refinery there. My wife was working in Townsville. We rented there for a little bit and then decided, no, let's buy a place in Heatley, which is a DHS place up on stilts. 99 grand we got it for.
99,000.
That was like double me pay at the time. So crazy. Well, I thought it was a lot of money back then, being my first place. Your first place, you're always nervous and,
So what was your mortgage? Was it like a 20% deposit or 10% deposit? What did you have to put down?
No, I think I only did like a 10% from memory. The interest rates were a fair bit higher back then. 7% or something. Wasn't too bad. But yeah, we're only there for like about 18 months, and then we left, came down to Tasmania. But I sold the place because I thought we'll need the cash behind us to maybe do it again, and regretted doing that because I sold it, I think, for 101.
101.
Something like that. I can't remember now. About 5 years later, they were going for about 400,000. They had the boom. The boom took off in the mining industry up north, and they 350, 400 grand they were selling for. I was like, oh my God. So that was the first lesson I had about, buy well and never sell.
Never sell. And it's interesting because this is a conversation we have as coaches again and again and again. And it's, sometimes it's frustrating holding property, and you don't control when those booms happen. And then when they happen, they can be like extraordinary. I mean, that's a 400% return or something.
Well, we had no idea it was coming.
No.
And I didn't really know real estate back then, other than, yes, I want to own my house. I didn't want to rent. Didn't necessarily see them as long-term investments. I just saw it as, I don't want to put money into someone else. I'd rather own the place myself over time. So I went down to Tassie and rented a company house there because there was nothing worth buying where I was, down the West Coast. Down there for a couple of years, and then we went to Parks, New South Wales, and I bought a place there. It didn't look like much, and for some reason we went back to it. We nearly bought some other thing which is a bit newer. This one was a bit older, and we went back and had another look at it and thought, oh, let's get it. And we got it for 140 back then. It was a 4-bedroom house, big shed, all that sort of stuff. And, we were there for 4 years. When we left there, it went for 200. We sold it for 235, so that was good.
Okay.
Yeah,
100 grand up. Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Got my money back.
Yep.
But again, still doing everything with me PPRs. And every time I was in one, I was always doing them up, always renovating them, always bringing up their quality and their value and all that sort of thing. Yeah. That was Parks. Then we came to Portland after that and bought a little farmlet on 5 acres. That was 350 grand. I thought that was a lot of money. That just felt like, oh my God, have we done the right thing? Back then, that was 15, 16 years ago. It felt like a huge amount of money. We sold that 2017, decided to move into Portland because the daughters sort of got tired of the farming community, or that sort of, they wanted to be in town with their friends. Sold it for 490.
Yep.
That was after I did a lot of work there. I built a tennis court, big shed, did a whole bunch of things there. And then bought this place here. So place I'm in now is right in town. It's 2-story, got it for 470. It's currently valued at 700.
Nice.
Nice. What to do next? It's a great place. We love it, but we might move on one day. You never know, and hopefully the
don't sell it.
I don't know.
There's this selling thing that's been going on. But then you have gone off and then invested. So you came to positive real estate when?
About 2015. So very late. Been in the game for about 6 years now, I suppose, with PRE.
6 or 7
Feels
years.
longer than that, but it's only about 6 years.
Yeah.
Cycle going through 6 properties. So I started off with Thornlands. So I think you got me into the PRE initially, got my attention with all the, I don't know how I actually got into it initially, but then I met up with Elaine, who was my coach at the time, and she got me signed up, and that felt like a $10,000 sign. I was like, what have I done? But best move I ever made. Best move I ever made. It actually drove me to get invested in it, put the time and the energy into it, and I really enjoyed it once I got into it, because really discovered I just love property, especially the buying side of it. I'll get to the selling
that's the
side
fun bit, isn't it?
Really enjoyed it. But got a place in Thornlands, townhouse, still got it. The original tenant just moved out. So that whole time I had the same tenant, although I only just found out she'd passed away, and her son, who was living with her, is there. But so glad he's moved out, because apparently he's a what do you call it? A devil worshipper.
A what?
Mum passed away, and he's lost the plot by the sounds of it. So
no.
yeah, the neighbours have been complaining to the property manager that he's been doing like naked seances out in the backyard and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So anyway, we put the rent up before I knew all this. We put the rent up because this is well overdue. We haven't really put it up much. So he decided, no, it's too much, so he was going to leave. But now I
I'm
find out
still
all
stuck
these
on
stories.
naked seances. Hang on, backpedal.
Yeah.
Because, do you know, I used to work years and years ago. I used to work for the Historic Places Trust of New Zealand, and I used to be like the tour guide for this old church in New Zealand that was no longer owned by a church.
Yep.
It was Anglican originally, and we came in one time because you'd show tour groups around. It was a big, almost cathedral style church, like it was massive.
Yep.
And I remember going up to the altar and discovering that somebody had turned all of the like the crosses and all of the paraphernalia upside down, and there was paraphernalia. Yeah, and somebody had been doing like, you know, bad juju, whatever you call it. We had to actually get, because the church was consecrated, we had to get somebody in to do the whole, you know, cleanse and whatever. I don't know a lot about. Yeah. So I'm still stuck on the naked seances.
Oh, look, I really didn't know much. I knew nothing of this. All I knew was that I had my original tenant. She was looked after by basically Centrelink for whatever reason. I didn't get into it, but she could pay the rent. Her son grew up with her. She was a single mum, and it's only now I've got a new property manager. Some of the truths have been coming out. The previous ones weren't telling me. But yeah, she was a bit freaked out, the new property manager, and even to the point where even earlier this week I was getting calls from her because he was moving out, but he was also outside her door, beating on the door with his mates, threatening her. And so you can really get some weirdos.
You can do.
But he's gone.
That's good, definitely run for the books. Like, I mean, goodness knows there could have been headless chicken sacrifices and all sorts of stuff. It's
so we're in there.
God knows what you'll discover in the drains. Like, my head goes straight to all of the crime shows I've ever watched in my life. My mum's addicted to crime, and I like to think I've outgrown it. But every so often, all those books that my mum used to have, it's okay, well, that's interesting. And do you know what I do? And I'm not superstitious, I'm not religious, but I would still get some sage and go and do a bit of a dance around. And
well, we've just replaced the carpet.
Definitely
we've
do
all
something
the walls inside. We're replacing a curtain. We're doing a bunch of maintenance while there's no one in there because I've done nothing with it because I've had one tenant for 6 years.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of work going on inside, and new tenant moves in next week. So
get them to light a sage stick.
Their sisters,
at the very least.
They're probably witches. Who knows?
I don't know what's going to happen at night to those next tenants. God, I wouldn't be telling them any of that. My goodness.
I'm sure Angela will look after me. She'll tell me what's going on. She's my new property manager, so she's good.
Oh, well, you've had a few interesting stories, and sometimes it's like I'll meet people that have had multiple properties for many years, and they've never even had like the smallest thing go wrong. And then I'll have people that from day dot just have challenges. I've had a couple of quite big ones only because they were expensive. Like, you know, cracked mains and stuff like that nobody knew about, that seeped right through the house and stuff. But nothing too crazy. Too crazy.
Well, I had a good run there for a while. First few years, no issues. I thought everyone else is complaining. Geez, they, you know, why am I getting it so lucky? And next, you know, I've had like 3 really interesting events. So this is the most recent one on the first property. My second property was at Newstead. So I bought an apartment there with my SMSF. I think PRE introduced me to the SMSF club back when you had Justin on for one of the nights. When I get into Melbourne, which is always fun. Yeah, so I signed up with the SMSF club and did some more things with the super and bought an apartment in Newstead, which was a really nice one. That's been an interesting experience. So
Yeah,
first
tell me
tenant
about
was
that,
fantastic,
because
great rent. Then I got tempted, like many of us do, with short stay.
yeah.
And so, I did a bit of looking around, and short stay was already happening in that same building with another landlord of one of the apartments. So I found out he was using Anshel. I had no idea one
Who they
from the other.
were.
So I thought, well, they're already there.
Yeah.
Seems easy, seems convenient. There's a
Yeah.
lesson. If it's
Yeah.
easy and convenient, it's probably not going to be. Don't do it.
It's true though, right?
Yeah, they were great to sign up and get me on board. Really good. They got furniture in there, everything. It took ages. First time was it took me ages to get receipts or any sort of itinerary of the furniture that I purchased, because I purchased a plan of furniture. Couldn't get any details. It took me months just to go. I thought, this is a worry. And for about 12 months, it was okay. I was really pulling in some good rent. I thought, yeah, this is okay. A little bit more tedious and a bit more effort than seemed necessary, but then, there was about 3 or 4 months where the rent just wasn't coming, and they were still putting tenants in, but I was about $7,000 in arrears, and finished up getting the Department of Fair Training involved, and that was hard because initially it was Queensland, and then it went back to New South Wales because Anshel in New South Wales. Then it went back to Queensland because the property was in Queensland. Then they decided, no, it really should be New South Wales, and just dragged on and on and on. But anyway, 2 years later,
they went under, didn't they?
They
group.
did. They went under, and then there was a lot of dodgy things going on. A lot of landlords or people that had signed up with them were screwed over, and not many of them wanted to speak up or do anything. So DFT were really happy that I gave them all my, because I really keep a lot of detail.
Yeah, you're good with your record keeping
information, and they were wrapped. I just gave them statements and all sorts of things, and I just allowed them to take them to the cleaners, and I got my money back before Christmas, which was
awesome.
2 years in arrears, but we got it, so it was great.
Awesome.
Yes.
And then and you were amazing during that, because I know we had a couple of conversations about that, and you kept your head with it and just worked through it step by step.
Yeah, well, there's not much more I could do. Short of flying up there and punching some bloke in the head, it was more like, well, let's just let DFT do their job. It was going to take a while, and give them all the information they need and just support them, and they got there. But interesting one there is the landlord insurance doesn't help you in those scenarios. So,
because it's short stay, is that why?
Yeah, well, and it's not rent necessarily that the tenant hasn't paid. It's what the property manager are keeping. So landlord insurance doesn't cover that.
It doesn't cover dodgy property management.
No. So you can claim if the tenants are paying funny buggers. But speaking of which, that was Clyde North.
But before we go to Clyde North, the good news, the overall outcome though, because what did you purchase that one for?
585, I think.
585. Awesome. And so you've, since returning to the permanent tenant arrangement, you've now got a good tenant, yeah?
Yeah, well, first I went to Labode.
So
I actually contacted you, and was it Laura or someone else helped me out and put us onto Labode to keep it going as a short stay arrangement and get some cash flow. They were brilliant. They were very good.
Yeah, because I think that's who PRE work with.
Deal with Labode. They are very good. But I got tired of it, and I thought, well, let's just see what I can get for a fully furnished apartment in Brisbane. And $600 a week. I've got a doctor in there who's sort of fly in, fly out, and she's happy. And the rent will probably go up one day because things are looking really good there. So
they are.
Back to full-time tenant. The reason why I sort of switched to that is I was getting a lot of pressure from the on-site property manager, who was not happy with the overall arrangements with short stay, because there was issues with security. There was Permanent tenants complaining about people coming and going and music and noise, and it
of
just became
course.
more and more grief from the on-site property manager.
Yeah.
So I thought, look, if I had my house on my own property, land, maybe I'd do that again.
Yeah.
But I just decided it's too much grief. Let's get out of this. Let's get some good rent. And it turns out I bloody did. I got some great rent. So I'm happy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, well, we like it. We like a happy ending.
Yes.
So quality tenant, great rent.
Yeah, good location.
And we are seeing those first price movements with that stuff too. So I'm happy to hang around after this and look at some vowels, because I know Thornlands has gone up. I've had a couple of
nothing moving there. There's too much building going on still.
No, I'll challenge you on that. I guarantee.
Okay.
When you and I
check
sit
it
down,
regularly, and they're not giving me anything of any interest. So
I think you'll find it's like literally in the last like 2 months it's started to really kick off. Yeah,
I expect it will with the Olympics coming towards Brisbane.
With everything, like there's so
3
much
properties in Brisbane.
There's so much migration and stuff happening in Brisbane. It's really a different place now.
Yeah.
And then, so Clyde North, because I had a number of clients that bought in Clyde North, and for some of them, they got initial uplifts in equity. I think one of my clients got 40 grand initially from. Yeah. And now, I mean, what do you reckon now? Must be.
So Clyde North, I got that one for about 440.
Yeah.
I think it's about 550 at the moment.
Yeah.
Valuation. And that's sort of only market valuation. It's not really had it properly assessed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, it's a busy area. It's interesting. I've been past it a few times. The actual property I've got overlooks the lake across the road. There's a shopping centre just down the road. It is a fantastic spot. So really happy with it. We had a shocking tenant in there. And thank God I had Emma Verreet as my property manager. She was
our lovely
brilliant.
Em.
Absolutely brilliant.
Isn't she amazing?
Because the tenant was good to start with, paying rent, no issues. And then all of a sudden rent just stopped and he was being difficult, wouldn't communicate. Emma cracked it with him real good. She just took it by the bull by the horns, and she was going to get him out for me. And we finished up going to the what do they call it?
VCAT.
Yep. Her and I both went there eventually, and he didn't show. And we found out his missus didn't even know he was doing all this. So there was some really dodgy stuff going on.
So tell me more about that, because
so the guy who had his name on the tenancy agreement, he got his wife and 2 kids there with him as well. But it sounds like she had no idea he wasn't paying the rent. We suspect maybe he was fooling around. We're not sure, but there was something really going down.
Gambling.
So glad to see the end of him, and got my money back there thanks to landlord insurance. So that was really good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and you had good support with them, which is really good to hear.
Oh, brilliant. And I know they say, if you're going to get a property manager, it's worth getting a quality one. I can't vouch for that enough. You try, and I might be able to squeeze them down from 8% to 7%. Don't do it.
It's not. I'm so glad you say that.
Yeah. Yep.
Because in real terms, like you're talking a few $100s.
And
if for the right person, like that's managing your asset, your $500,000 asset, you'd want to quibble over a couple of $100 to get an outstanding result.
To me, that's just ego at work. If you're trying to squeeze your property manager with another percent, I mean, if they're worth it, give them another percent. Give them really work for you.
Yeah, I just need to go, bing, snapshot that, let everyone know, because it's so true. It is so true. I remember reading Adolphe de Roux's book. I don't know if you've heard of him. He used to be up there with Robert Kiyosaki in the wealth creation. He was the property guy. Yep. And I remember reading a book of his, it would have been 20 years ago, and he said the same thing. He said he doesn't, and he was hyped about his money, like I can't even think of an analogy that would be suitable for a podcast, but he was saying, like, he doesn't understand why people quibble over paying a property manager properly. And this guy's got literally billions of dollars of property around the globe, saying don't quibble about a property manager. So I think we'll put that one in lights. I think that's the quote for the day.
One a good one. Yep.
I'm still stuck on naked. I keep going back to that. The only other thing I can think of, is I hope my father doesn't watch this, but my dad was a bit of a hippie in the day, right? And he has been known to attend the odd nudist colony type thing. So he hired a caravan on some land from the Druids in Wellington in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, because he wanted a place that he could go, because he can be very artistic, my father. So he wanted a place he could go and do his art on this hillside overlooking the bay. And the deal was that as long as he didn't mind them coming and doing their druid thing once a month when the full moon, he didn't know what it entailed. And it entailed a bunch of people my age and older, so 50s and older, getting their kit off and literally dancing around, a bonfire under the moonlight and stuff. And he said the first time it happened, it was quite unusual. So it may, if they're going around threatening people, I don't see druids doing that.
No.
Maybe it was,
No.
Yeah.
You're bringing, I'm getting memories of What We Do in the Shadows, though, New Zealand movie. I love that movie.
I love that. Very New Zealand humor, though, that. It's like...
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's like, do you know what? I watched... What's that movie that Australians always talk about? The Castle.
Oh, yes.
When I watched The Castle, I was like, I don't understand what's so funny about this.
Yeah,
like,
no, nor do I sometimes.
Yeah, because it wasn't culturally my thing. And I think, in the shadows thingy, I can't remember. What's it called? It's
What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, something like that. And they've got this other show, which is, and I'm digressing, it's the ghost one in Wellington. I can't remember what it's. Paranormal. Paranormal.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that one too.
Yeah, it's just so
crazy.
Daft. Only Kiwis or like-minded Aussies would get it.
Very funny.
But, I guess the classic. So wrapping up, if I could give my younger self some advice, knowing what I know today, what would you say?
Get help. So it's one thing to put it off. I'll do that one day. I really want to invest in property. I'll do that one day, sort of thing. And doing it with your PPR is great, but that's not really investing. And get some help, get some advice. Look, what I did with PRE, I wish I had done that in my 20s, not in my 30s, mid-late 30s. So time, I would love another 10 or 15 years more at this than, even where I am now, I'm going to have another, a long time yet, but to have started much earlier, but to have had the confidence to do it when there's a lot of people around you that would poo-poo it, no, what do you want to do that for? All the people that sort of hold you back and make you second guess. Get help, get advice, talk to some good people, and the guys, everyone at PRE have been fantastic, and I would do it again. And I'm actually coaching my daughter, who's, she's becoming very successful in her business. She's an artist, and she's actually becoming very successful, actually.
That's amazing.
So she's actually now toying with the idea of getting into property in the next couple of years. Fantastic. Once she's built up a couple of years of income to be able to show the banks that, hey, look at me. I've already got her playing in shares, in the share market. I'm educating her in the share market. So all that stuff that I didn't get when I was younger, I'm trying to help to, because she's got a bit of an interest, and to be able to start sooner. If anybody's thinking about doing this sort of thing, do it.
That's good to hear. And for your daughter, just in case you weren't aware, because you're a lifetime, your daughter can come to mentoring, can be part of mentoring.
She's actually jumped on a couple of webinars. So I've been sending the links, and she's been putting a name down and it's early days for her. There's a lot of jargon and stuff she doesn't quite understand, but she can sort of get the gist. But then she can bounce it off me. But she knows it's a bit early yet. But it won't be far away. No, she'll almost. The business keeps going the way it is because she's living off mum and dad at the moment. She'll be able to buy property with cash the way she's going. So.
Oh, mum and dad are there. That's always good.
Yes.
Yes, the old bank of mum and dad. That's a whole nother conversation.
It is. I wouldn't have it any other way.
No. Truer words. So anything else that was important for you to get across for people? Anything I haven't asked you?
Probably not. I've shared some interesting experiences, but don't let them put you off. Is my only advice. I mean, I was getting a bit annoyed with it, with some poor experiences with Anshel, with Clyde North, with we didn't talk about Elmore Vale, and that's been pretty good, really. Newstead was weird. Thornlands is now weird, but if these things come and go, expect them. You can't necessarily protect yourself from them because you don't know when they're happening, and then you find out. But don't let it hold you back, because there's plenty of people you can get that can help you. Just like me, from my experience with Anshel, is that I got you guys to can you give me a hand, and it was fantastic. Emma Great, who helped me with Clyde North, it really got me out of a pickle. Because she knew what needed to be done, and she just grabbed the bull by the horns and got it done. And look, that's the beauty of this, is you can build a good team up around you. So
the old 6-star team.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And there were some good stories in there, so I'm sure everyone got a bit of a chuckle. If they didn't, I sure did.
Yep, good.
Awesome. So thanks again, Tom.
No worries.
Really
love to have a chat. We'll catch up another time.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for listening to Property Investor Tales. Remember to subscribe so you get notified every time a new episode drops. As you can guess, I love hearing people's property investor tales. So if you'd like to share yours, then please get in touch with me via email at propertyinvestortales@positivementor.com.au. We would also love your feedback, and I would appreciate a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Remember, you can watch all of these podcasts over on YouTube at Positive Mentor or at positivementor.com.au. Until then, take care, happy investing, and bye for now.